And so when you think about like the time that you've spent on mushrooms, do you feel like you went to a place, whether it's deep inside you, and you pulled something back that changed your behavior or changed the way you thought about things going forward?
I want to be very, I think I want to just be like very, because there's people who make these sort of like very big claims about the potential, and I think under, and my conclusion of the book is that under the right circumstances, with the right mindset and the right place, and these can be like useful tools into changing your perspective and to, maybe shifting you out of like negative thought patterns, and potentially they can be a useful tool potentially. The LSD was an extreme, the book is a portion. It was at that time, a lot of the travel and stuff was still a portion of me like dealing with the breakup. And when I took the girl who I took LSD with was going through a thing, and the thing that I was going through. Well, again, if people are curious, you have to buy the book. And it was, and she, as we were like sitting in the grass, and me and her were, we clicked like very quickly because we're both things people. We like talking about things. We like talking about events. We like talking about ideas. And we had been with each other for 3 or 4 days. Had not once asked about family, not once asked about other friends. Had just talked about ideas the whole time. And we've taken the LSD and we're walking through Golden Bridge Park in San Francisco.
Oh, Golden Gate Park, yeah.
Golden Gate Park. So we're walking through that, and then suddenly she just opens up to me in this massive way. And what she tells me, and again, I'm not going to say, you can buy the book. I just think, like it all, just the whole thing just connects up for me. Because for whatever reason, the book started off with, this is about and I don't know why I started it just talking about connection within the universe. And what she said to me, it just, the whole, dominoes started hitting, all the lines started connecting up. It's like, holy shit, it's all connected. And this is what LSD did for me. And it's what people, this is what people often say, you just start to notice all these connections that are around you. And where I was at that particular time and where she was at that particular time, like we were the right people to be with one another doing LSD in this park at this time. And it was just a fantastic experience. And again, I sat and talked to her. And again, I'm not a person who likes talking about feelings or emotions or anything like that. I fucking hate talking about those sorts of things. But they're just sort of like, I was sitting on a statue in the park, just chatting to her. But it was as if I was talking about somebody else's problems. You're sort of like sitting outside your own body, looking. I mean, not physically looking down, but it was somebody else's issues, because it's very easy to talk about somebody else's problems. Ain't not your own. They're a totally different kettle of fish. But that's what that allowed. So this was half, whatever it was. It was one half of a tiny wee piece of paper. So this was a small amount of LSD. Now, directly after that experience, a lot of negative emotions, negative feelings, and a lot of things had shifted in me. But after a time, I fell back into the normal way of things and way of thinking, right? So yeah, it as a tool for like taking me out of myself and allowing me to address some things there and then, it definitely I definitely think it helped. Now, was it the long term answer? No. But then and there, yes.
So what do you think then of this big push right now in popular culture? We're starting to see people like Michael Pollan write books about, using psychedelics. We're seeing people come out and say openly they think they should be legalized, and even states themselves in the United States opening them up. It's all being done under the premise that this is allowing people to heal traumas and problems that they've had. Do you think this is a a facade, like a trick in order to get the gate open, or is this truly helping people?
I think a lot of people are full of shit. I think like largely like majority of the conversations you hear in this topic, the majority of people talking about it, the majority of like it's I remember talking to somebody like the people who are use the most of this stuff, who advocate most for it, who, and again, I'm someone who thinks legalization and regulation, I think that just makes sense. But my position coming down to my position really comes from you're funding cartels, you're funding paramilitaries, you're funding this, you're not actually doing anything, they're still widely available. It's these sort of sensible, but we're going to legalize drugs and it's going to just fix everything. Yeah, shut the hell up. I mean, like the people who do most drugs are burnouts. That's the reality. The people who are like the biggest advocates for LSD are doing what exactly? I mean, like it's people will often, I think I make the reference to this in the book as well, you know, once you start to look in to like something like LSD, the first name you'll hear is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said that taking LSD was one of the most important experiences of his entire life. Now, Steve Jobs done LSD a handful of times. You know, it was a handful of times he done it. And for every, listen, Francis Crick as well, one of the discoverers of DNA, again, on LSD. But for every profound, worthwhile, or interesting thought had on some psychedelic, you have 100 million other people going, what even is truth? Am I even real? Are my hands even touching right now? You know, it's, can these things be useful? Yeah, in a limited potential. I don't even say yeah. Potentially, these things could have use and value and make you a more fulfilled, better rounded person. You know, but for the most part, the vast majority of people are taking them, getting smashed, having a decent time or not. And that's what's going on, and the danger.
This really reminds me of my like take on marijuana, right? Like there have been a few times, like if you use THC, there are a couple of times when you're doing that, when you have some experiences or some thoughts or some conversations that are amazing, right? That whatever state you're normally in, you're not capable of doing it, at least for me. But if you get to the point where you're doing it all the time, you have this sensation of the profound, because you still have this euphoria and this like aha moment, and your brain is always trying to catch up with a pattern that it kind of sees. And I think that's kind of what you know, getting on a lot of drugs allows you to do, is it allows you to see patterns that in your ordinary brain you just can't. But the problem is that you know, the definition of genius is seeing patterns that other people can't see, and the definition of madness is seeing patterns that aren't there. And you can get into these like cycles where you think you're seeing something so profound, and when you wake up the next day or you come down off of being high, the pattern either wasn't anywhere near as beautiful as you thought it was, or for some reason you feel like, I know it was a good idea and I can only get it if I get back there, but I can't get it while I'm in my lucid state. So I'm very much with you. I think there is a ton of potential within the use of psychedelics and different types of drugs, but I think most of the time it's like getting drunk on sacramental wine.
I don't have any like strong conclusions on it. Like, so when I first started writing the book, it was full of, the war on drugs is really bad and the people who support it are really dumb, you know, and which is like so typical. And it's like, it's because they're bad and they're dumb that they have this position. And the more that maybe you grow up and you mature a bit and stuff like that, and as I'm reading them back, and went, that's actually very silly. And you take it, most of these drugs that I'm talking about, cocaine, LSD, ecstasy, these are in around 100-year-old. They're not new. They're not old. It's so societies that have never had to
just
deal
said
with
two
this.
things. They're both. Are you saying they're new or they're old?
Oh, sorry, they're not. I misspoke. They're very new. They're not like they're. LSD was invented during World War One. Ecstasy, and then nobody realized it had any uses until after World War Two. Ecstasy, something similar. Cocaine. So coca plants have obviously been around for millennia, for a very long time. But the refining process, so people actually getting the most out of it. So they created a thing called coca wine, where you have to take as much of the cocaine out of the plant, mix it in with wine, you're fit to transport and sell it. So it was endorsed by the Pope. And also what Coca-Cola came out of, famously. But that was only in late 1800s. And again, so people are taking that as a tonic, as a painkiller, and then after a while, they realize people are addicted to this, and then started taking it out. So there's been like this massive trial. The war on drugs is exactly what you'd expect people to do. You have nowadays where we have we've more evidence, you've more science, you have more money to spend on treatment centers and clean needle clinics, and we are lucky to be in a position where we can be more compassionate. Whereas 80 years ago they weren't in that position. And so they just seen a problem had arisen, and it's like, okay, now we need to address this. And the way you normally address these things is with a heavy hand. It's the same people who came up with the idea. It's the same ideas with prohibition, and with all the same results. But you need to sort of come at this with a mature
well, I mean, so for me, when I think about the legalization or the war on drugs, for me, I'm a libertarian, right? I want people to be able to do what they want to do, mostly because I want to be able to do what I want to do, and I think that I should extend that to other people. But I will say this: most of the problems that are going to come with legalization of drugs are going to come when we go from absolute prohibition, we're sending you to prison for a long, long time, to there are no rules. Because all you're going to do is open up a space where people that are not trying to do it just once or twice, but people that are saying, hey, now this opens up a gateway and I can go there and I can be a part of this drug culture. And you get a mass of people that are now, a part of this whole drug scene, and all of the problems that come along with that, which are societal, that end up causing crime, causing all sorts of other problems. And so then people are like, yeah, see, exactly, right there. That's why we should have prohibited it. So to me, it seems like that interim stage between they're illegal and now they're legal should be the one that we take slowly. Like, if we're gonna head to legalization, step it down. Don't do ding dong, let freedom ring, let's just make it all happen overnight, which is why I think Oregon is absolutely insane. They just sent a flag up all over the world to say, everybody come here because we're gonna open up the gates on this.
What have Oregon legalized?
Oh, they pretty much. So I don't want to misspeak here. They definitely opened up the doors on psychedelics, but I think they way lowered the punishment on possession of any kind of narcotics, heroin, and those kinds of things. I don't think they're legal, but I think they've just decided we're no longer going to put people in jail for it. And I think California would be the good example that, for all intents and purposes, once you've done that, they are legal.
Yeah, well, that's very similar to Portugal's system. So Portugal decriminalized everything. Portugal had a massive drug problem. Portugal was the worst in Europe. So then they went about decriminalizing everything. So if you were caught by the police with an amount that was deemed for personal use, what you got was a letter. Yeah, sorry, you have to go into doctors, and the doctors examine you, have you across the board, make sure you're not actually addicted. If you are, and if you are addicted, well, then they send you off somewhere else for treatment. And if you're just, someone who's, buying some drugs for the weekend, they send you on your way. And that's like massively helped as that in part because their drug problems completely out of control. But so I think the decriminalizing of these things, I think that's probably the right first step to make. It's my fear, and this is usually the libertarians going to disagree with it. My bigger fear with it is and I've mentioned it in the book as well, is the free market with access to these things, because we already know with like the cigarette companies are actively advertising towards children in the third world. They don't make a secret of it. They put their billboards around schools. They, when cocaine was legal, it was put into baby tooth medicine, that famous one. So if you're in a system where this is like totally unregulated with no stigma around it, why don't you put something that's deeply? I mean, like we're already at this position where we now realize that how harmful and addictive sugar is, and it's just in fucking everything. Whereas in Europe, there's tighter regulations and this stuff. It's up.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you always get notified about this podcast. And if you're really interested in conversations like this, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. To find out more, go to network.articulate.ventures.